Hi there, it's Simon Gray from Career Codex, and in last week's newsletter I put out another invitation to ask me a question on anything to do with finding success in the job market. And I had a question from James through LinkedIn who said, Simon, whilst competency-based interviews are a tried and tested successful approach to assessing a candidate's level of experience, do you think that there is a chance that they may also limit the opportunity to measure talent and creativity from a candidate? I wondered whether this would be down to the competency-based question asked or the expertise of the interviewer. Well, thanks ever so much, James. That's a fantastic question. Competency-based interviews are sometimes the thing that candidates fear most when they hear that they've got an interview. They're excited they've got an interview, but they often face some trepidation when they hear that it's a competency-based interview. So on this video today, I wanted to talk a little bit about what a competency-based interview is, talk about 4 reasons why employers like to use these nowadays, and then 2 important strategies to deal with them. So to kick off really, competency-based interview is really an interview that looks to assess skills. So what is a competency? Well, a competency really is a skill, and a skill that you would bring to an employer, you would evidence in that interview to demonstrate that you can do what you say you can do, so that the employer sees that you've added value in the past and could potentially come into their business and add value there. So, we apply skills to situations, to problems, to challenges, and at the end of those, at the end of the work that we do applying those skills, of course, there's a result and a positive outcome. And that's the kind of thing that people are looking to test and to evidence in part during a competency-based interview. So why have they become so popular? Well, the first reason is that they gather evidence. And if you're an employer, you're interviewing a number of different candidates, you need to gather evidence from those candidates to know whether they can do the stuff they say they can do. And when you're an interviewer, often your decision making can be quite subjective. Do you feel like you like the person? Did you have a perception that they could do the job or not? Gathering evidence makes your decision-making process more objective because it's fact-based, because you've got evidence. So it improves the quality of decision-making during an interview process. Secondly, which relates to the first point in some respect, they create a standardized interview process, because what a competency-based interview allows you to do as an employer is to score candidates based on their level of competence in a particular skill set. So at the end of the interview, you've scored on various criteria. You add the scores up. You have a view as to who potentially could be the best candidate for your business. Of course, if you just randomly interview people with a series of random questions, you're not comparing apples with pears in terms of the questioning. So the answers you get will be very different. So it makes comparison virtually impossible. And if you're going to make a right and informed decision as an employer, then you need to have, to a certain extent, a standardized process. The third point is that a competency-based interview can gauge not only the experience, but the depth of that experience. And what do I mean by depth? Well, I have leadership skills, but to what extent do I have leadership skills? Through the course of the competency-based interview, being probed by the employer about my skills, they will be able to rate and grade the level of my experience, for example, in leadership, alongside other candidates. So it's not just about whether you've got the skills or not. What a competency-based interview allows an employer to do is to measure the depth of those skills. And the fourth reason that employers like to use this technique, and this always makes me smile, because we can all be prone to slight exaggeration, and some people may exaggerate a little bit too much on their CV. By the way, you should never do this. You should always make your skills and experience fact-based, because people will quiz you on it. But it allows the employer to spot somebody who has elaborated on the level of their experience or stuff that's on their CV. And that can be very useful. And because a competency-based interview goes into detail, because you ask a broad-based question and then the employer drills down to ask how you specifically dealt with elements of that situation, because it asks for specific examples and skills and evidence, it's very hard if it's not fact-based for you to try and convince an employer that you've actually done that stuff. So when you're thinking about preparing for a competency-based interview, then you have to think about your best examples, which you can be probed and quizzed on, which are generally the achievements on your CV. So what does this mean for you as a candidate in the job market? Well, it means that you have to be in proactive control of your interview process and your job search in general. And what I mean by proactive is you have to know in the interview what type of experience you need to communicate to get the best response from the employer. Now, they may not tell you what the competencies are in advance of your interview. And in actual fact, that can be a good thing, because if you know how to prepare properly, you'll be one step ahead of other candidates in knowing what experience to position in front of the employer. You don't want the employer to make it too easy for your competition by telling them what the competencies are, because if you prepare properly, you'll be best able to do that preparation yourself, better than your competition. And control is about controlling the interview, because you can't always guarantee that the interviewer will turn up knowing what your experience is, having read your CV, or be an experienced interviewer to ask the best questions to get the best evidential experience from you. So control is about knowing what experience you have to position to get the best response from the employer, and then making sure you position that as part of your interview process. So I teach my clients at Career Codex how to control the interview process from start to finish, both in the words you say, the actions you take, and how you carry yourself during the interview. So promise to give you a couple of top tips. We're nearly done the video. A couple of top tips as to how to handle a competency-based interview properly. And the first thing to say is to be very clear and concise. Don't waffle. So you have to get to the point quickly. And I use a convention. It's called CAR, Context, Action, Result. So in any example that you're giving, you describe the situation, what you did, and the quantifiable, where possible, result. In my book, Super Secrets of Successful Executive Job Search, page 113, I explain something I call the black hole principle, which is how you engage in conversation at interview and reverse roles to stop that barrage of questions. So if you've not got a hold of that book, it's on Amazon. Have a look at page 113. There's a lot more information on there on that black hole principle. But the first point is make your point and then stop. The second way to handle a competency-based interview properly is that the interviewer wants to know what you did, not what the royal we did. Now, of course, in any business, and depending on the size, you'll work as part of a team, but the employer wants to know what you did as part of that team activity. And in my 10 years plus years in the recruitment industry, when I took feedback from employers, my clients, on candidates and how they performed at interview, the things the employer said to me was, well, yeah, they might have had some really good experience, but they didn't get to the point. Or we couldn't get the evidence we needed because they talked about we and not what they'd specifically done. So they're probably the two key things to really think about if you're about to face a competency-based interview. You can see on the screen behind me, I'm running a webinar at the end of this month on how to find or how to succeed at executive job interviews. If you go to my website, careercodex.com, click on the post-it note, you can register for that webinar. It's completely free. You'll have an opportunity to ask me questions. We will touch on competency-based interviews, but I'll be walking you through the preparation and then how to perform properly at interview, and then how to follow up to get the best response possible. If you'd like to go to my website, if you're not receiving this through the weekly newsletter, and subscribe, careercodex.com, you'll be prompted to enter a couple of details, and then you'll get this content direct to your inbox every single week. So if you have a question for me for next week, please either message me through the website, or contact me through LinkedIn or the Career Codex Facebook page, and let me know what your questions are about your job search problems or challenges, and I may just pick one of those to talk about on next week's video. So until next time, take care, and I'll talk to you soon.